Cognitive bias refers to systematic patterns of deviation in judgment, influencing how we interpret information and make decisions. These biases are inherent shortcuts in our thinking processes, often leading to irrational judgments or perceptions. They stem from various factors, including our experiences, emotions, social context, and mental shortcuts the brain uses to process information more efficiently. These biases can manifest in multiple ways, affecting our understanding, beliefs, and behaviors. They impact how we assess risks, make choices, and interact with others. For instance, confirmation bias makes us seek information confirming our existing beliefs, while the availability heuristic leads us to overestimate the likelihood of events based on easily recalled examples. Understanding cognitive biases is vital because they affect our objectivity, leading to flawed decision-making. Being aware of these biases can help us mitigate their influence, make more rational choices, and approach situations with a more critical and open-minded perspective. Understanding the halo effect. The halo effect is a cognitive bias that influences our perception of someone or something based on a single positive trait or characteristic, leading to a generalized positive judgment of that person or thing as a whole. For example, assuming that an attractive person must also possess other desirable qualities like intelligence or friendliness. Believing that a successful individual in one area must be skilled in various other domains. Forming a positive overall judgment about a person based on a single positive interaction or trait, overlooking potential negative qualities. The halo effect can influence decision-making, evaluations, and perceptions, often leading to biased judgments. It can impact how we hire, assess others' abilities, or even make purchasing decisions. Awareness of the halo effect is crucial, prompting us to critically evaluate and consider multiple factors, rather than being overly influenced by a single positive attribute when forming opinions or making decisions. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we perceive and interpret their specific traits or actions. Here are a couple of classic experiments that illustrate the halo effect. 1. Physical attractiveness and perception of competence. In a landmark study by psychologist Edward Thorndike, military officers were asked to evaluate soldiers based on their physical appearance alone. The officers were shown photographs of the soldiers without any additional information. Despite having no knowledge of the soldiers' actual capabilities, the officers consistently rated more physically attractive soldiers as having better leadership qualities, intelligence, and competence. This demonstrated how physical attractiveness influenced perceptions of unrelated attributes like leadership or intelligence. 2. Product packaging and consumer perception. Researchers have conducted experiments where they presented participants with identical products but in different packaging. One set of products was packaged attractively, while the other set had plain or unattractive packaging. Despite the actual content being the same, participants consistently rated the products in more appealing packaging as of higher quality, more trustworthy, and sometimes even tasting better. This shows how external factors like packaging design can significantly influence our perception of a product's quality or attributes. 3. Celebrity endorsements and brand perception. Studies examining the impact of celebrity endorsements on consumer behavior also highlight the halo effect. When a well-known and admired celebrity endorses a product, people tend to associate positive traits of that celebrity, such as attractiveness, success, or talent, with the product being endorsed. This association often leads consumers to have a more positive view of the product and be more inclined to purchase it, even if they have no direct evidence of the product's quality. These experiments showcase how the halo effect operates across various contexts, from judgments about people's abilities based on appearance to the influence of packaging and celebrity endorsements on our perceptions of products and brands. The overarching theme is that our overall impression of something or someone can significantly influence how we perceive individual traits or aspects, often leading to biased judgments. The sunk cost effect is a cognitive bias that influences people to continue investing in something, whether it's time, money, or effort, just because they've already invested in it, regardless of whether the investment is worthwhile or not. It's like feeling compelled to finish a bad movie just because you've already paid for the ticket, even if you're not enjoying it. Imagine you bought a ticket to a concert, but on the day of the event you feel sick and tired. You might think, well, I already paid for the ticket, so I should go. The money spent on the ticket becomes a sunk cost. It's already gone and can't be recovered. However, the sunk cost effect makes you feel obligated to attend the concert, even if it's not in your best interest, simply because you've already invested in it. Similarly, consider a business scenario where a company has spent a significant amount of money and resources developing a new product. As the project progresses, it becomes evident that the product might not succeed in the market due to changing trends or unforeseen issues. Despite this, some individuals within the company might advocate for continuing the project simply because of the resources already invested. They feel that abandoning the project would mean all the past investments were for nothing, falling into the trap of the sunk cost effect. This bias can influence decisions in various areas of life, including relationships, education, investments, and business. People tend to factor in past investments when making decisions about the future, often leading to irrational behavior. Understanding the sunk cost effect is crucial because it can lead to poor decision-making. Here are a few ways to combat this bias. 1. Reframe the perspective. Instead of focusing on what's already been invested, consider the situation objectively. Ask yourself if continuing the investment aligns with your current goals and if it's the best use of your resources moving forward. 2. Cut your losses. Recognize that past investments are gone and can't be recovered. If further investment doesn't align with your goals or if the returns don't justify it, it might be better to walk away. 3. Seek external opinions. Sometimes, seeking advice from someone who isn't emotionally invested in the situation can provide a fresh perspective and help you see beyond the sunk costs. 4. Focus on future prospects. Shift the focus from past investments to future gains. Assess the situation based on its future potential and whether it's beneficial from this point onward. By being aware of the sunk cost effect, individuals can make more rational decisions and allocate resources more effectively, considering the present and future rather than being solely influenced by past investments that can't be recovered. The recency effect is a fascinating phenomenon that affects how we remember things. It's part of the serial position effect, which describes the tendency of people to recall the first, primacy effect, and last items, recency effect, in a series better than those in the middle. The recency effect specifically refers to our tendency to remember the most recent items or information in a list or sequence more accurately than the middle items. Imagine you're at the grocery store and you have a list of items to buy: apples, milk, bread, eggs, and cheese. When you get to the checkout counter, you're more likely to remember the last items on your list, eggs and cheese, more vividly than the items in the middle, like milk and bread. This tendency to remember the most recent items is the recency effect in action. There are a few reasons why this occurs. One of the primary reasons is the concept of short-term memory. When you encounter a list of items, your short-term memory retains the most recent information because it's still fresh in your mind. The last items are readily available for retrieval because they were the last to be processed and stored. Let's say you're studying for a test and your friend quizzes you on a list of historical events: World War I, Great Depression, Renaissance, Industrial Revolution, and Middle Ages. As your friend reads the list, you might remember the Middle Ages and World War I better than the events in the middle, like the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution. This recall pattern occurs because your short-term memory is more effective in retaining the most recent information. Another aspect contributing to the recency effect is the way our brains process and encode information. The items at the end of a list or sequence are still fresh in our minds when it's time to recall, making them more easily retrievable. This effect is often stronger when there's a delay between receiving the information and recalling it. For instance, if you're asked to recall the items from a list after a few minutes of distraction, you're more likely to remember the most recent items, the ones at the end of the list. The recency effect isn't always present, though. It can be influenced by various factors. For example, if there's a distraction immediately after seeing the list, it can disrupt the recency effect. In such cases, the distraction interferes with the short-term memory's ability to hold on to the most recent information. Moreover, the recency effect can be affected by individual differences. For some people, the primacy effect might overshadow the recency effect, leading them to remember the first items on a list more than the last ones. It can also depend on the specific content being remembered and the attention given to each item in the list. Understanding the recency effect can be helpful in various contexts, such as learning, teaching, and communication. For educators, it emphasizes the importance of reinforcing key points at the end of a lesson or review. In presentations, it suggests that ending on a strong note can leave a lasting impression on the audience. In essence, the recency effect illustrates how our memory tends to prioritize the most recent information we encounter, making it more accessible when we need to recall a list or sequence of items. Illusory correlation refers to the tendency of people to perceive a relationship between two variables that don't actually have a significant connection. It's a cognitive bias where individuals mistakenly believe there's a correlation between two unrelated things or events. Imagine you're watching a basketball game, and you notice that whenever a player wears a particular pair of socks, their team seems to win more often. You might start believing that these socks bring good luck. However, the reality might be that the team's success has no real connection to the socks. The wins could be due to various other factors like skill, strategy, or just chance. Another example could be someone thinking that every time they carry an umbrella, it seems to rain. They might start believing that their umbrella somehow causes the rain. However, it's likely just a coincidence as rain is a natural occurrence and isn't caused by carrying an umbrella. Illusory correlations often occur when people are trying to make sense of complex or uncertain situations. Our brains naturally seek patterns and connections to understand the world around us. Sometimes this tendency leads us to associate unrelated things, especially if they stand out or are memorable. In a broader context, this concept can also influence perceptions about groups of people. For instance, if someone believes that a particular group tends to behave a certain way based on a few memorable instances, they might generalize this perception to the entire group, even if those instances are not representative or are coincidental. Illusory correlation can affect decision-making, leading to biases in various fields, including medicine, business, and everyday life. For instance, a doctor might wrongly associate certain symptoms with a specific disease because they coincidentally occurred together in a few cases. Recognizing and understanding illusory correlation is crucial to make more informed judgments and decisions. It's essential to critically evaluate whether there's genuine evidence supporting a relationship between two things, or if it's just our minds trying to find connections where none exist. Negativity bias is a psychological phenomenon where our minds pay more attention to and give greater importance to negative experiences compared to positive ones. In simple terms, it means that negative events, emotions, or information have a stronger impact on us than positive ones. Imagine you receive 10 compliments and 1 criticism in a day. Despite the numerous positive remarks, that one criticism might stick in your mind, making you feel upset or insecure. This tendency to focus more on the negative feedback than the positive is a classic example of negativity bias. This bias has evolutionary roots. Back when humans lived in more hazardous environments, paying attention to potential threats was crucial for survival. Our ancestors needed to be hyper-aware of dangers like predators or environmental risks to stay safe. As a result, the brain developed a mechanism to give more weight to negative information, ensuring that potential threats were not overlooked. Consider this scenario. You're walking in a forest. 10 beautiful, colorful butterflies flutter around you, but suddenly, you spot a snake nearby. Your attention immediately zeroes in on the snake, ignoring the butterflies. Because in terms of survival, being aware of the potential danger is more critical than enjoying the beauty around you. Negativity bias isn't just about survival instincts, it affects our daily lives too. In relationships, for instance, one small argument can overshadow many positive moments. If a friend cancels plans once, it might stand out more than the multiple times they were there for you. This bias can impact how we perceive others and the world around us. In the workplace, negativity bias can influence how we react to feedback. Imagine you receive a performance review with mostly positive comments, but there's one area for improvement highlighted. Instead of focusing on the areas you excel in, the mind tends to fixate on the one critique, potentially leading to feelings of inadequacy or disappointment. Even in the media, negativity bias plays a role. News outlets often emphasize negative stories like accidents, conflicts, or disasters because they grab attention more than positive news. This is why headlines about crime or disasters are more likely to catch our eye than stories about acts of kindness or achievements. In social situations, negativity bias can affect our memory. If you attend a party and have a great time, but someone makes a negative comment, that remark might dominate your recollection of the event, overshadowing the overall positive experience. Overcoming negativity bias involves conscious effort. Practicing gratitude, acknowledging and appreciating the positive aspects of life, can help balance the scale. Mindfulness techniques can also train the mind to observe thoughts without judgment, allowing you to recognize when negativity bias is at play and consciously redirect your focus to the positive. Understanding negativity bias doesn't mean ignoring negative aspects altogether. It's about finding a balance, acknowledging potential threats or areas for improvement, while also appreciating the positives. By being aware of this bias, we can strive for a more balanced perspective, leading to improved mental well-being and healthier relationships. Outcome bias refers to the tendency to judge a decision based on the outcome, rather than on the quality of the decision-making process itself. In simpler terms, it means we often judge whether something was a good or bad decision by looking at what happened afterward, rather than considering the information available at the time the decision was made. Imagine a basketball player taking a shot during a game. If the shot goes in, everyone cheers, and the player is praised for making a great decision. However, if the shot misses, people might criticize the player for taking a risky shot. In both scenarios, the decision to take the shot was the same, but the outcome, making or missing the shot, influenced how people perceived the decision. Here are a few examples to illustrate outcome bias. 1. Investment decisions. Suppose someone invests in a stock that was expected to perform well based on thorough research and analysis. If the stock price goes up, people might commend the decision-making skills. However, if the stock price plummets due to unforeseen market changes, the decision might be criticized, even though it was made based on sound information available at the time. 2. Medical treatment choices. A doctor might choose a particular treatment for a patient based on the best available evidence and expertise. If the patient recovers, the doctor's decision is seen as wise. However, if the patient doesn't respond well to the treatment, the decision might be questioned, even if it was the most appropriate choice given the information available. 3. Business strategies. A company might launch a new product after extensive market research and analysis. If the product becomes a bestseller, the decision is hailed as brilliant. Conversely, if the product fails to gain traction in the market due to unforeseen circumstances, the decision might be criticized, even if it was based on solid market data. Outcome bias can cloud our judgment and lead to unfair assessments of decisions. It's important to recognize that just because something worked out well or poorly doesn't necessarily mean the decision-making process was good or bad. Factors beyond our control, chance events, or unpredictable circumstances can heavily influence outcomes. Understanding outcome bias is crucial because it helps us make better judgments and evaluations. Instead of solely focusing on the result, we should analyze the decision-making process itself. This involves considering the information available at the time, the rationale behind the decision, and whether it was based on reasonable and logical thinking. By acknowledging outcome bias, we can become more aware of it in our own thinking and in how we assess others' decisions. It encourages us to focus on the quality of decisions based on the available information and reasoning, rather than being overly influenced by the eventual outcome, which might be influenced by various unpredictable factors. In summary, outcome bias teaches us not to judge decisions solely by their outcomes. It's essential to evaluate decisions based on the information and reasoning available at the time they were made, rather than simply looking at what happened after. This understanding helps in making fairer assessments and improves decision-making processes in various aspects of life. The false consensus effect is when people overestimate how much others agree with their beliefs, behaviors, or attitudes. It's like assuming that everyone sees the world the way you do, thinking your opinions or actions are more common than they actually are. For instance, imagine you're a huge fan of a particular TV show, and you assume that most people around you also love it. You might believe that because your friends enjoy it, everyone else must too. This assumption leads you to overestimate the show's popularity among a broader group of people. Similarly, if you strongly believe that a certain political viewpoint is the most logical and correct, you might presume that the majority of people in your community or country share your perspective. This can lead to surprise or confusion when you encounter opposing views, as you had assumed your stance was more universally accepted. The false consensus effect can create misunderstandings and limit empathy by making us think others are more similar to us than they actually are. Being aware of this bias helps us be more open-minded and understanding of diverse opinions and perspectives. Hey there! Ever felt like all eyes are on you, noticing every little mistake or flaw? That's the spotlight effect in action. The spotlight effect is a psychological phenomenon where individuals overestimate how much others notice and pay attention to their appearance, actions, or mistakes. It's like feeling as though a spotlight is shining on you, making you the center of everyone else's attention, when in reality, people are often more focused on themselves. For instance, someone might believe that a small flaw in their appearance or behavior is highly noticeable to others, causing embarrassment or self-consciousness. However, in reality, people around them might not even notice or care about that particular detail. This effect can lead to unnecessary self-consciousness and reduced confidence in social situations. Understanding the spotlight effect can help individuals realize that others might not be as observant or critical as they think, potentially reducing feelings of self-consciousness and allowing for more confidence in social situations. So next time you feel like all eyes are on you, remember, it might just be the spotlight effect playing tricks on your mind. Influence of anchoring. Anchoring bias is a cognitive bias where individuals rely heavily on the first piece of information they encounter, the anchor, when making decisions or judgments. This initial information influences subsequent thinking, even if it's unrelated or irrelevant to the decision at hand. Impact on decision-making. Imagine you're buying a used car. The salesman tells you it was originally priced at $25,000, but is now offered to you at $18,000. This initial high price of $25,000 acts as an anchor. Even though you might know the market value is lower, the anchor of $25,000 might influence your perception of the car's value, making $18,000 seem like a good deal. Mitigating anchoring bias. Recognizing anchoring bias is crucial because it can lead to decisions based on irrelevant or misleading information. Mitigating this bias involves consciously questioning and adjusting from initial anchors, considering more relevant and diverse information to arrive at more accurate conclusions or decisions. Do you ever find yourself automatically trusting information just because it comes from an authority figure? That's called authority bias, and it's more common than you might think. Authority bias is when people tend to trust and believe the information or directives provided by someone in a position of authority without critically evaluating or questioning it. This bias stems from our tendency to respect and defer to those perceived as experts or having higher status, assuming their knowledge or directives are accurate and trustworthy. In everyday life, authority figures like doctors, government officials, or even celebrities can influence our decisions and beliefs. For instance, if a well-known health expert endorses a particular diet, many people might adopt it without investigating its scientific validity because they trust the expert's authority. This bias isn't inherently negative, but it can lead to problems when blindly accepting information without critical thinking, especially if the authority figure is misinformed or biased themselves. While expertise should be respected, it's essential to balance respect with critical thinking. Questioning, verifying information from multiple sources, and considering different viewpoints can help mitigate the effects of authority bias and lead to more informed and independent decision-making. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is a cognitive bias where individuals with limited knowledge or ability in a specific domain tend to overestimate their competence. This means that they lack the skills to recognize their own incompetence, leading them to believe they're more capable than they actually are. The effect highlights a paradox. Those who are less skilled or knowledgeable tend to overestimate their abilities, while experts often underestimate their own competence because they assume others have similar knowledge. This underscores the importance of humility and continuous learning. Consequences and personal growth. This phenomenon can have consequences in various areas, from individuals making poor decisions due to misplaced confidence to teams facing challenges when someone overestimates their abilities, impacting collective performance. Recognizing this effect is crucial for personal growth and development. Embracing a humble attitude and being open to learning can help combat this bias. Discover the fascinating impact of mass behavior on individual decision-making. known as bandwagon effect, and how it shapes various aspects of our lives. Bandwagon effect is a social phenomenon where individuals tend to adopt certain behaviors, beliefs, or trends simply because many others are doing the same. It's like jumping on a bandwagon, joining a group or trend because it seems popular, rather than because of genuine belief. Imagine being at a concert where everyone around you starts standing up and cheering for a song. The excitement of crowd might prompt you to do the same, even if you didn't initially feel like it. This effect can influence various aspects of life, from fashion trends, consumer choices to political opinions and social behaviors. During elections, bandwagon effect can be powerful. If a candidate gains momentum, more people might support them simply because they seem to be winning. Similarly, on social media, the number of likes or shares can trigger bandwagon effect, leading people to engage with content simply because it's popular. Understanding bandwagon effect helps us recognize when our decisions might be influenced by the herd mentality. It encourages critical thinking and individual evaluation rather than blindly following the crowd. Do you ever find yourself seeking out information that confirms your existing beliefs while disregarding contradictory evidence? This is known as confirmation bias, a common human tendency that influences how we gather information, interpret data, and recall experiences. Imagine someone who believes that all dogs are friendly. They might actively seek out examples of friendly dogs to confirm their belief, while overlooking instances where dogs might behave aggressively. This reinforces their belief, leading them to ignore encounters where dogs exhibit less friendly behavior. Similarly, consider a person who strongly believes that a particular smartphone brand is the best in the market. They will actively seek out positive opinions and testimonials about that brand, disregarding any negative reviews or comparisons with other brands. This reinforces their conviction about its superiority, leading them to ignore reports of malfunctioning or negative experiences of others using the same brand. Confirmation bias can hinder critical thinking and decision-making, making us more likely to accept information that aligns with our existing beliefs while rejecting anything that challenges them. Being aware of this bias is crucial in making informed decisions by actively seeking diverse perspectives and being open to reconsidering our beliefs in light of new evidence.